You are listening to AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties who are all about the lyrics. We're your hosts. I'm Jen.
I'm Monty.
And I'm Jody.
And we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of AP Taylor Swift. Today we have a show and tell episode for you on revenge. So excited for this one. According to Merriam-Webster, revenge is to avenge oneself or another, usually by retaliating in kind or degree. And revenge comes up a lot in literature. Monty, you want to talk a little bit about some of the places we see revenge come up?
Yeah, sure. I think one thing about a concept like revenge is it helps reveal something about the actual characters. So it might not be the main plot. It could be the main plot device in a novel as well, but oftentimes it's there to help us understand the psyche or character. But one thing that I thought was really interesting when doing some research is that I guess it is obvious when I think about it for more than 2 seconds, but revenge has really evolved over time, even in the history of literature. It hasn't always meant the same thing. In ancient times, revenge was much more a given. It was more of a duty often at times. If you were wronged, revenge could be a question of honor and maintaining a status quo. Like, you needed to take revenge in order to right a wrong that had been done. And it was almost a given that of course a character is going to take revenge. Somebody got murdered, of course there will be revenge. It was never even questioned. An eye for an eye was very standard. Yeah. A great example would be in Iliad, when the whole Helen of Troy debacle happens. Even though she is the one in love with Paris, or they are in some sort of relationship, Menelaus needs to take revenge.
I love that, Monty, you said revenge has changed over ancient times and brought up the Iliad and the Odyssey. And in my head, I'm like, oh, the Princess Bride. My name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father. Yeah. Prepare to die.
Yes, yeah. Classic ancient literature. Right. I hadn't brought up Odyssey, but I had it in my notes. The other example was in the Odyssey is when Odysseus comes home and ends up killing all the suitors who were after his wife Penelope.
And it was codified into law in ancient times of if someone, eye for an eye was literally the law. So it wasn't just we'll have justice be served in some way. It's if someone did this to you, you were legally allowed to do it back to
No, that's
them.
the whole, what the gladiators were in the Colosseum. They were usually avenging a wrong or someone who was committed a crime.
Yeah, exactly. And so how has that changed in modern literature? I put in my notes, I put modern in quotations because the first example of modern literature is actually Shakespeare, which was written in the 1500s. Very modern.
It's early modern English, technically, so modern's
exactly.
in there.
But a classic example of revenge is in Hamlet, where there's a whole chain of events that is kicked off because Hamlet finds out that his uncle murdered his father, and multiple characters in Hamlet want revenge for various reasons. And then a few other examples, Jen, maybe you can share because I am not as well versed on them, but more recently there's been a lot more examples of revenge as well. The key difference being there's some more ambiguity, and we're now exploring psychological complexities of characters and trying to understand whether that revenge is actually justified or not, and does it change the character in some way because that character seeks vengeance. In Hamlet, we are all over that. Hamlet is a very complicated character.
Yeah, the ones I was thinking of were the Count of Monte Cristo, when Edmund's best friend basically frames him for all of this bad stuff, gets him thrown into a prison on the Chateau d'If on an island in the middle of nowhere, and ends up marrying Edmund's fiance, literally stealing his life. And in his time in prison, the rest of the Count of Monte Cristo story is Edmund being well, then how can I steal your life? So thinking of that revenge of retaliating in kind is you stole my life, I'll steal yours. Similar one that I was thinking of was Wuthering Heights, that Heathcliff is an outsider. If we're going with the more Gothic, the moors, Heathcliff is aligned with the wildness of nature and the moors and all of those things. And he's ostracized by the family of Catherine and all the others, and then he leaves, becomes successful, and comes back and is like, okay, now I'm going to destroy you as well. So again, it's like there's literal life in as far as like death stuff in Odyssey in ancient times, but I do like your point a lot, Monty. Like the modern version of it is less, you killed my friend, so I'm going to kill you. It's more like you socially humiliated me, so I'm going to socially humiliate you, or I'm going to strip you of your reputation, or those types of things.
Or even if it is obvious, it's like, okay, well, you killed so and so, therefore I must take revenge. How does that change you as a person? I think there's also this open question of like, is it always an eye for an eye, or do you change in some way? Does that affect you? And therefore, is the revenge actually worth it?
Yeah, and that's like the Count of Monte Cristo for sure. Is he starts out so sweet and friendly, and then his journey of, how much agency do you have in your choices, and how does it affect who you are?
Mean Girls. This is Mean Girls.
Yes.
Janice wants to take revenge on Regina George, and she does it through Caddy. Damn it, I just like the movie. I'm like, Katie, it's Caddy. She does this through Caddy, and how...
It is Katie. That's the joke, right?
No, it's Caddy. Everyone calls her Katie.
No, it's Katie.
I think it is Katie.
Call her Caddy. That's the joke, Jody.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, even though I can literally recite it. Katie Heron. Anyway, even in the musical takes it a step further by literally having a song called Revenge Party, so it makes it very clear. But taking revenge on Regina George really does change her, and that's why she gives the crown to everybody at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert.
I'll say this is the one reason I actually didn't like the musical that much, is because it was so obvious. Like they had to spell out everything, whereas I feel like the movie had a little bit of genius.
The movie,
in it. It was like layered.
Yeah, it was much more layered and nuanced, and then in the musical, it's like apex predator, and it's like, okay, well, it's very on the nose.
Anyways, now that everybody knows all about revenge, we get to have the honor of tying revenge to Taylor Swift and her lyrics, because revenge is a theme that comes up often, as it does in all great works of literature, in Taylor Swift's lyrics as well. And I'm excited for this episode because I am curious, just knowing that spectrum of how revenge has evolved and how it can be different things. I am really curious how it would show up in music, and more importantly, how it might change.
Well, I have the first song, so I took a slightly different approach to this than we have in the past. I primarily am going to be speaking about the song Speak Now, the title track of the album Speak Now, which originally came out in 2010 and then on Taylor's version in 2023. And in doing my research, I was like, so who wrote this? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, it was a Taylor solo song. Jennifer, it's on Speak Now. It's a Taylor solo song. So I had a moment. Anyways, written by Taylor Swift and Taylor Swift alone, because Speak Now. I know to do a Speak Now song and not do Better Than Revenge for the Revenge episode feels kind of confusing, but I wanted to talk about both of those songs just a little bit. We did talk about Better Than Revenge in our Mad Women episode, so go back and check that out. We have discussed it, and it was Mad Women, so revenge was a big part of that conversation. But as I was looking at Better Than Revenge of like, do I want to repeat this or not? It's a great song, but it's her making a lot of claims, but not really showing any receipts of saying, there's nothing I do better than revenge. There's nothing I do better than revenge. But we don't really hear about what that revenge is. And one of the things with the concept of revenge that I wanted to explore a little bit is the revenge fantasy, which is when you're not necessarily going to do it, but you just savor that fantasy of, standing up and quitting your job and leaving everyone in the dust, or those things. So that's why I wanted to talk about Speak Now, the song, because I would argue in a lot of ways it is the revenge fantasy that could follow Better Than Revenge, because Better Than Revenge is all about a girl stealing the guy, and then Speak Now is this fantasy of showing up at the wedding and stealing the guy back. We'll get into some of her other songs, but a lot of her revenge songs feel more directed at men, professionally, romantically, personally, whatever it may be. And this song and Better Than Revenge are both very specifically revenge or wanting revenge against a girl who stole a guy from her, which I just think is interesting and different. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So talking about revenge fantasy, ruining a wedding, great revenge fantasy.
Yeah, talk
10 out of
about
10.
perfect timing too. I feel like it's the timing of the revenge.
Yes. And this speak now or forever hold your peace is, just setting up for this big climactic moment. But what I think is so funny is how little the guy matters in both of these songs.
Love that.
He's literally a toy as a metaphor in Better Than Revenge. And then in Speak Now, eh, she's looking at him. He's wearing a tux. We don't get that many details about the guy. He's like truly a pawn in this power dynamic between the protagonist and the antagonist, who is this other woman. So we get very little about the guy, but for the girl, we get marrying the wrong girl, her snotty little family. She's yelling at a bridesmaid, and I was uninvited by your lovely bride-to-be, which is clearly tongue-in-cheek. And so this like threesome triangle, the guy doesn't matter, seems very replaceable in a lot of ways, because the laser focus is you stole this boy from me, or something you did was really bad, and I am here to ruin your wedding day. And like, yeah, I'm gonna get this guy back and that'll be nice, but the clear intention of the song is I am going to ruin your wedding day. Because if it was just about getting the guy back, you could go talk to him beforehand. The drama of going to the wedding feels very targeted and much more revenge to the girl than it is about actually getting the guy. Because there's 1,000 ways you could try to get the guy back. This is the way that really targets the other woman in a very specific, public. A lot of showmanship is going on in this revenge fantasy, which I think is a lot of revenge fantasies. It tends to be very dramatic, very high stakes, but you're going to come out on top and you're going to win, and everyone's going to be like, I should have never done the thing that I did to you. Like, that's what you think of in a revenge fantasy. So the setting of it, the drama of it, I just think is perfect.
I was surprised when you picked this one other than Better Than for Revenge, but I definitely see the revenge fantasy angle of it. I also think that she knows that she's rudely barging in, right? Like,
Yes.
it's also like you could have handled this in a more orderly fashioned before the wedding, but it's not about that. It's not about just getting the guy. It's about doing it in a manner that is so in your face, making a statement, and to your point, yeah, ruining the actual event itself. I'm horrified by all of the vendor fees and like money that goes into wedding. That's the thing. Like that's the moment that you're gonna blow apart. So I love it.
I also really love the focus on revenge fantasy, because this song, you don't immediately think revenge, but you do think fantasy. She literally calls it a daydream. But for her, I mean, this is what is more like a nightmare for the bride. And I just think that dichotomy of a beautiful, daydreamy, puff pastry revenge is really fun. And I think also in the same way that the idea of Taylor Swift taking brutal revenge on anybody seems so out of character at this stage for where she was in her career, which makes Better Than Revenge such a shocking song on this album. What makes it even more shocking is how light and airy and enchanting the rest of the songs on Speak Now really are. And so you have this yes, I said enchanted. You have this, like, Better Than Revenge is very explicit. This is not, but is so much more brutal, because you're really getting at that moment where the bride thinks this is forever, this is it, this is the moment. She's like, I'm going to take that away from you. I'm going to ruin all of that in a way that you can never get back, so that not only do you not have the man, you also I've now tainted this moment. But in the same way, that's not the angle she takes. Like, she's, yes, to your point, Jen, this is against the girl, and like you barely hear about the guy. It's such a sweet song.
It comes across so lovely and like
it's such a sweet saccharine song.
It does. It comes across like, oh, this guy who we know no information about is my soulmate and we'll end up happily ever after. But then when you get into the actual lyrics, the way she's describing this woman is like an actual like middle finger. This is the worst person. I hope her day in life is ruined. And the actions, that's why, so Better Than Revenge is so aggressive. And it's like, oh, she's not a saint. She's not what you think. All this kind of stuff. but she never does anything in that song, really. There is no revenge. It's just saying, like, she should be aware there's nothing I do better than revenge, which is
It's a
strong.
warning.
Yeah, it's a warning. It's a strong statement. But so I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, what does it mean for her to do revenge? And that's when I thought about Speak Now. And I'm like, that would be an insane level of revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, do these songs belong together? I don't know. But talking about revenge, it's fun to think of them. That, like, lines like, she thinks I'm a psycho because I like to rhyme her name with things. And then that same person showing up at this woman's wedding to say something. It's like, in this moment, dear protagonist, you are being a bit of a psycho.
But like, you thought that was psycho?
Yeah.
Wait and see what I can do.
Wait until you see. Yeah, and just so much of, like, she should keep in mind, there's nothing I do better than revenge. Better than revenge is a warning. Speak Now, it's a fantasy, but it's a fantasy of the follow through of, this is what I could do to you.
She has planned this out step by step.
Has. Yeah. And I mean, this is one of the critiques of Better Than Revenge, was that it was blaming the woman. And we talked about this when we talked about Better Than Revenge, of like, this dude still chose to go with her. But at no point in that or in Speak Now is the revenge against the guys. And we don't know Speak Now is a moment. I'm just comparing these two songs. A later date, we'll talk about the song in a different context and it'll be fun to revisit it. But the idea of potentially you were dating a guy, he left you for another woman, and you're like, you know what I should do? I should ruin her wedding and win him back. This guy, there's no negative consequence for this man, according to these fantasies. It's, he made a mistake, oh, poor him, but I'll show up at the last minute. Literally in Speak Now, the final part of it is him basically saying thank you. And you'll say, let's run away now. I'll meet you when I'm out of my tux at the back door. Baby, I didn't say my vows. So glad you were around when they said Speak Now. So her revenge fantasy is that he's like, oh, thank you. And it's like, she just ruined your wedding day, which like maybe was for the best if this was a bad match.
Saved him
but
from a terrible future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't know that.
Yeah, but saved him from this monster woman who she's ruining that woman's life.
Yeah,
and
continuing to villainize.
Yes.
I also think with the concept of revenge, there's this element of trying to justify it. And here she's very clearly like, I'm not the kind of girl that should be rudely barging in on this kind of occasion, but you're not the kind of guy who should be marrying the wrong girl. You're not the kind of boy who should be marrying the wrong girl. She's justifying it, even if it's complete insane justification. Whether it is qualified or not is a question that who knows if we'll ever get the answer to. But I think in her head, it's very clear to her. Going back to the point of this song sounds so sweet.
Yeah.
It's not even written as a revenge song, but that's like clearly every time she talks about the bride, like the way that her tone changes, clearly it is revenge. It's almost like she's justifying it in her brain.
I think a key element of this is the fact that it is still fantasy. She talks about a daydream, but we have lines like, but I know you wish it was me. You wish it was me. Don't you? Like, she's not quite sure. And the context that validates that uncertainty is he's at the wedding for his wedding day. If he wasn't sure about it or really wanted it to be her, would he have shown up? Like, the fact that he is there kind of feels like a decision was made, and then she's fantasizing about winning him back. But the big thing, that's all. This song's so fascinating. At some point I want to revisit Speak Now.
I never saw this as complex, and now I'm like, holy shit, this song is really complex.
Yeah, like the story, because of the unreliable narrator, there's so many questions about the context of, was this other woman truly super manipulative and he didn't want to be there, but he felt trapped? Possibly. Was she not that bad and it was just kind of like an enemy situation and the narrator's overblowing it? Maybe. Like, we really don't know. But the reason I really wanted to bring it up with Revenge is, one, it's really fun to compare it to Better Than Revenge, and so it kind of allowed me to do both. But at the end of the day, the narrative of this song is, I'm going to show up to this horrible woman's wedding. All of my descriptions of her is that she sucks, and I'm going to take this man back and ruin her life forever. And it's, again, the revenge of in kind of, she stole my man, if we compare it with Better Than Revenge, she stole my man, and guess what? I'm going to steal him back, but I'm going to do it in a more dramatic way, which is the fantasy part of it, I think.
I love it. And I think one thing that I love about the song that will carry over into my song is Taylor's version of revenge here. It is a very sweet, saccharine kind of song where it feels innocuous on first glance and first listen, but when you get into the lyrics, you're really starting to unpack, and it is pretty vicious, actually.
Mhm.
And the song that I did, I think, follows a similar pattern in a slightly different way. I did I Forgot That You Existed from Lover, came out in 2019. It was written by Adam King Feeney, Lewis Bell, and Taylor Swift. So
Welcome to the podcast, Adam King Feeney and Lewis
yeah,
Bell.
unique bunch that I don't think ever discussed. Great song. Love this song. I chose this song for revenge. It's called I Forgot That You Existed, and it feels not overtly revengey initially, but the angle that I was taking here was indifference as a form of revenge, especially against someone who may seek attention. If somebody who attacks you is doing so in a way that gets them way more eyeballs, causes a stir, causes a conversation, and they are attacking you to somehow bolster their own clout, revenge against somebody who wants that kind of attention could come in the form of indifference. It's like the ultimate revenge in some ways. And in this situation, the song is kind of getting at a kind of emotional detachment or a nonchalance of like, oh, I totally forgot you existed. I just moved on with my life and I didn't even know. I totally forgot. And what better way to say you literally do not matter to me than to say that I just forgot about you. And then on the same hand, it's also showing that the speaker has real control over their own emotions and they can move on past something without getting swept up in the drama. So the song starts off, and I will caveat by saying we're going to deep dive this, so I'm not going to spend too much time in the lyrics, but I do want to start with just the opening stanza. Starts off with a little bit of framing of the situation. How many days did I spend thinking of how you did me wrong? Lots of repetition here to emphasize that. There's shade being thrown. Sunshine is gone. Really dramatic setup. And then something happened one magical night. I forgot that you existed. It was so nice, peaceful, quiet. Thought it would kill me, but it didn't. And it's just like poof, boom, there it is. And I think the insignificance, the lack of pomp and circumstance with which this person just forgets is part of the revenge. There wasn't anything major. It's not like I had to go through so much heartbreak or whatever. It's just like one day, poof, after all that, it's gone. Don't care anymore. You no longer have any hold on my life. And honestly, I just forgot that you were even there.
It reminds me of the Mad Men scene when I forget the character's name. I think it's Ben Feldman plays him. He's in an elevator with Don Draper, and he's really mad at Don Draper. I don't remember the plot, but he looks at Don and says, "You know, I feel bad for you." And Don, just without missing a beat, very calmly goes, "I don't think about you at all."
Mhm.
And it's the most cutting, devastating line for this other character who's like building up the courage to be like, "I feel bad for you," and then Don's just like, "Who are you? Like, what?"
Yeah, because that's exactly what it's doing. It's showing that one person is still thinking about this person. It's the living rent free. You're living rent free in somebody else's head, and the worst thing that could happen to that person is if you just completely did not share
Yeah.
that.
This song is an example of moving on is the best revenge. Like, I don't have to
Yeah.
actually do anything to you. I don't have to contemplate how I'm going to ruin your life by ruining your wedding. I'm just going to move on. And that is the sweetest revenge that could possibly exist. Although, is she
Yeah.
really moving on if she's writing a whole song? It's a whole other conversation.
Right.
For the deep dive.
Well, I think there's also a question of it's past tense. I forgot you.
Correct.
I think there's a moment where it's like literally had a moment where I completely forgot that you
Like,
were
oh, right.
there, and it was great. And it's worth calling out the very last line is I forgot that you existed. I did. It isn't hate. It's just indifference. It isn't love. It isn't hate. It's just indifference. I think that's important because that is like going back to this idea of hating by itself is not an action. It's just like you're in a state of hating, whereas choosing to be indifferent and just not think, it turns into action. Actually, like I think indifference actually is like a choice, and it's just something that you're doing, and you're not letting it take up space.
100% in line with what you're saying. Something I've always thought about this song, I almost did I Bet You Think About Me for very
Ooh, that's a good one too.
for very similar reasons, where it's not doing anything. It's just saying, you know what the revenge is? You know what you missed out on. Like, you have to live with that knowledge, and I'm going to move on. Like, that kind of revenge. But one of the things that's always gotten me with this song, and well, again, we're going to deep dive it, but she has these moments of, I would have stuck around for you, would have fought the whole town for you. So some of the revenge too is saying, hey, remember, I don't care about you, and I would have been your biggest fan and your biggest supporter. And the revenge is you lost that. And it's interesting to put this one with the revenge fantasy, which again is like intense, but she doesn't actually do it. And then this idea, Better Than Revenge, the song, where it's a very intense song that did kind of like, I say shock. It's not like it was a big upheaval in the world.
It was
But it was
surprising.
surprising. It felt out of character, which we've seen more since she's, kind of matured and felt more free to write stuff. But to have this intense, there's nothing I do better than revenge song. And then a lot of the examples we come up with are very sweet and kind of loving. But
yeah,
what a great mask for revenge.
Right.
To serve revenge with a smile is like kind of a new level of, oh, that's terrifying, actually.
A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
It kind of makes me think, and I'm sure we can come up with examples that prove this wrong, but that like the idea of revenge for when a woman takes revenge, it looks very different than when a man takes revenge, right? A man is probably going to be much more violent and bloody and direct, and a woman is going to potentially be more emotionally manipulative.
Yeah, John Tucker Must Die, great example.
Exactly.
Well, and then also the modern take on revenge, rather than just like, I have to take revenge for duty. This is more mind games, right? Like, it's more thought out. It's really evaluating you as a person. It's evaluating the other person as a person. It's like, where can I hit where it will hurt the most? Like, how do I strike in a way that will really make an impact? And I think that my like starting point about how indifference is a great revenge for someone who really cares about attention, I think that especially is a very special kind of revenge for a certain kind of person.
I think there's a little bit here too that reminds me of our conversation of karma, where some of the revenge here too is her keeping her side of the street clean and forgetting and moving on and being at peace, and sort of a, you can't take my peace away from me, you don't have that power over me. And then I don't know if karma's in this, but knowing that the song Karma's coming later is almost, to me, adds to that of, I moved on, I found my peace, and man, you know how I keep my peace? Knowing that karma's gonna come around.
Yeah. There's definitely themes there that go into just her general philosophy, it feels like.
Yeah.
But there is a moment, I love that the fact that it's just like one day I became indifferent. Worth calling out that this is track 1 on Lover, which was the first album after her There Will Be No Explanation era of just going dark. We've talked about Reputation as actually having some really beautiful, sweet love songs on the actual album, but the very look, aesthetic, feel, everything was all about this viper snake with glowing red eyes and like snapping noises and like very badass hardcore woman. To go from that to just, oh, I had a moment, I just forgot that you existed. It's so refreshing in many ways, but it feels like a really stark contrast.
Yes.
So what a way to kick off
very conscious choice.
Yeah, I love the idea of Lover the album as a revenge album to the world, saying the revenge I will have on you is to write an album called Lover that has beauty and is upbeat and is branded with butterflies and hearts and pink, and that's the life I'm choosing. And you know, in some ways, Reputation is like that There's Nothing I Do Better Than Revenge brand, and then the revenge itself is pink, hearts, beauty,
but
love.
Still vicious. The song
is exactly
also cutting. Yes.
I have the last song. I have also maybe the most, I don't know what the word is, It's more complicated. I chose I'm Gonna Get You Back. That is all one word, from the Tortured Poets Department, which came out in 2024. This is track 18, so it was on the anthology. It was on the double album, written by Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift. And the reason I picked this one, even though it is not a straightforward revenge, I love the double entendre of, is this revenge? Am I gonna get back together, or am I gonna get payback? And I think it's been really fun throughout this episode to explore the different types of revenge, a revenge fantasy, indifference as revenge. And this one is more, I haven't decided. Literally, she says, I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to get you back. What I'm going to get you back means I haven't decided yet. And I find that really interesting because there are some songs, which we've brought up already, that are explicitly about the act of getting back.
Yeah.
Better than revenge. The beginning of this song reminds me a lot of vigilante shit. So this song starts with, yeah, lilac short skirt, the one that fits me like skin, which reminds me a lot of Lately I've Been Dressing for Revenge, which is from vigilante shit on Midnights. And so which could have picked vigilante shit.
Also
that one's
would have
about
been a
revenge.
great
That would have
revenge
been
song,
great for
yeah.
this episode, which I didn't think of until I was diving into this song. And I was like, oh shit, these are connected. So again, there's a lot of back and forth here in the verses of, am I gonna be your, and then the chorus. But the first verse sounds a lot like there's still desire. You did your research, knew the price. I can tell when someone still wants me. And then the chorus is pretty ambivalent. I think actually the word I was looking for when I kicked this off was ambivalence. I don't know which way I'm gonna go. Whether I'm gonna curse you out or take you back to my house, I haven't decided yet, but I'm gonna get you back. Like, that's the chorus. The chorus is, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Whether I'm gonna be your wife or gonna smash up your bike, I haven't decided yet, but I'm gonna get you back.
I do love that the double entendre works for all of these. It's just like such a geniusly written song.
Correct.
So clever.
It's very clever. And there's a few other phrases that she like flips and has a double entendre for as well. I can take the upper hand and touch your body. Having the upper hand means having the advantage, but here she's using it physically. I'm going to use my upper hand to touch your body.
I think also I've been trying to think of what word you've been trying to think of, and I think ambiguous is what.
Thank you, ambiguous. Yeah, because I'm like, she's not ambivalent.
I was like, ambivalent was close, and I was like, I know this word's in here.
I was like, it's definitely not indifferent. There's no indifference in this song. There's a lot of, she knows exactly what she wants to do, but there's two options and she hasn't decided yet. And I think it's just really, if this is a moment after a breakup where you just cannot decide if you want to take revenge on this person for everything they did, this song is right after that moment. She's still in the heat of the moment after a breakup, it feels like, where you really can't decide, do I want to take revenge on this person, or do I really just want them back? Do I just want to be with this person? And the song is going through the good and the bad, right? The lilac short skirt, you still want me, I can hear the whisper in your eyes, but then also act like I don't care what you did. I'm an Aston Martin that you steered straight into the ditch, then ran and hid. Like, she's going through the positive and the negative, and it really, I leave this song really not sure what she's going to do. I can see very strong reasons that she's going to take revenge, that she's going to smash up his bike and curse you out and pick your poison, babe. I'm poison either way. I really see it both ways, and there's not a decision.
Yeah,
into the song.
It's almost like both versions are revenge in its own way, where she's either going to smash up the bike or destroy all of his stuff, or pull him into the closet, or going to be their wife. One way or another, you will regret the decision you made.
Correct.
And either come back to me
or,
well, it's not even, I'm going to make you do this. Like, it's very,
yes.
I think that, like, the reason I'm saying revenge both ways is sort of, this person made a decision and she's saying, well, I'm going to decide what your punishment is.
Correct.
I don't know what it is yet, but I will make you regret your decision, and then we will decide what the result of that is once I decide, actually, then we'll make it happen.
And what this song is really about is the power, right? It's there's
Yes.
not even though it's ambiguous, she's not confused. She's got power in both of those options because
She's
she
like,
has options.
it's in her hands. Like,
It is
she's just like,
in-
it doesn't really matter.
exactly.
She's like, and I haven't decided yet, but either way,
I'm gonna get you
I
back.
am the one that gets to decide. Like, you don't have a say in this.
Yeah. You'll find that you were never not mine.
Right. And I think the point that you were saying about it remaining ambiguous is like, we don't know as a listener because she doesn't even know. And I
She
think that's
doesn't
the
know.
whole point. It doesn't actually matter what she picks. The point is that she gets to pick.
She
it.
gets to
Yeah.
exactly. That is the point of this song, is that she's the one with the upper hand here and gets to make a decision. And that's really powerful. And so I actually am going to retract my previous statement about being this like, I think at first I was like, oh, she was broken up with, and now it's like, oh, I'm going to get you back either for breaking up with me or because I want to be with you. No, I think she has so much confidence and power in who she is in this song, and then just gets to make a decision. Do I want to take revenge or do I want to take you back?
Which, to Jen's point, the fact that she has a power, absolute power, no matter what, kind of is the revenge.
That's the
Mhm.
revenge. Exactly.
That's why it's like revenge both ways.
Yeah.
The revenge is that I'm in charge here. It
I'm in
doesn't matter
charge now.
what-
I have the upper
Exactly.
hand, and you're going to have to wait for what I decide to do. And it is my choice.
I have often felt that a lot of the Tortured Poets songs are like grown-up adult versions
Yes.
of earlier songs, which I think we've discussed with like Love Story, for example.
Yes.
I don't know if it's because we just did Speak Now, but is this a grown-up version of Speak Now? Like,
So I had that thought. We've talked about this sometimes on the podcast of like how she's matured
Yeah.
as a songwriter, and like she's been talented since day one. But the idea of when you're in your mid to late teens, perhaps, and your boyfriend dumps you or something,
Right.
and you're thinking like, oh, I want to get him back. Like that girl stole him. I'm going to say that is an immature response, not in a like, oh, you're so immature, Taylor, but in a like, as a young person, that's a common approach.
Right.
Like, I don't think that there's anything I mean, it's maybe not always the healthiest, but it's not a like, oh, what an immature person. But this is so fascinating to me to have just discussed this, because I was thinking the same thing, Monzi, of here she's saying, I might get you back, which is what Speak Now was, or I don't know, do you deserve me? Like this sort of self-awareness, or even the agency and the power of I hold the power here, and I realize I'm a prize, and so I have to decide if you get to have me,
Right.
or if I'm just going to ruin your life. I can do either. I don't know, but
right.
like to me, that really represents the power you feel, particularly as a woman in your teens versus your early 30s.
Yeah. Say you got somebody, I'll say I got someone too, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we talked about the evolution of even revenge and how it can be a really simple concept or it can be a more nuanced and layered concept. And I actually feel like between Speak Now and this, we're actually seeing both. To what you were saying, like when you're younger, you're just like, oh, I got wronged. I have to take revenge and I have to get the person back. It feels like that's the only option. It feels like, well, duh, this is what I have to do. It's just basic animalistic instincts. Right. It's like, I was wrong, must get
it's
revenge.
The male's version of revenge. There's only
Yeah.
two options.
Yeah, the eye for an eye.
Yeah, it's eye for an eye. I have to do
right?
this.
It's just very tit for tat. Here in this song, we have a much more nuanced, mature, and complicated version of revenge of like,
you're gonna suffer either way.
I'm almost imagining her like filing her nails, just being like, I haven't decided yet, but I'm gonna get you back. In the long list of things that I have to consider, like, let me think about this closely. Just know that whenever I do decide, it will have consequences on your life. That to me is such a, I mean, first of all, powerful thing, but also nuanced. It's layered. It's not so if then there must be this reaction. It's like, well, there's a lot of things to consider here.
Well, and thinking about who's centered in the story too, and Speak Now, most of the unique descriptions were about the girl. We've talked about this. The guy's irrelevant, and it's mostly like the nerves is what we get of the protagonist. This song, we just said the line, say you have somebody, say you got somebody. So there may be another person involved in why this, but we don't get anything about that other person. We don't really get anything about this guy. This is centered on her and what she wants. Like when you look at who the story is centered on, that's also a dramatic shift between those two songs.
Yeah. Also, may or may not be related, but when you were reading Lilac Short Skirt, Jody, I thought of You Belong With Me. Like, she wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts. I mean, I like the vigilante shit comparison as well, but there's also something really interesting about the fact that our speaker is now the one wearing the lilac short skirt, just because of the way that she has used that article of clothing in the past too. And that was another song. You Belong With Me was another one where it's like pitting two females against each other and saying like, pick me over her, like you belong with me. And here we have her in that skirt in the position of desirability, I guess, but it doesn't mean that he's gonna get her. It means like she still gets to decide whether she even wants to be with this guy or not.
I love that we went all kind of different directions, but we also hit on the main revenge songs. Like, I feel like
we this
we
is
did good.
serendipitous, guys. Like, and also for our audience, we don't talk about what songs we're gonna do. We just holistically bring in our own songs and see what we show up with. So we're not sitting here plotting, oh, we need to have an arc of revenge and let's make sure we come with different perspectives. No, we genuinely just show up and we're like, these are organic connections and discoveries that we make in the moment. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and all other social media channels. And join us next week as we deep dive I Forgot That You Existed right here on AP Taylor Swift.
That's all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on social at AP Taylor Swift to stay up to date, and join us next time as we overanalyze and deep dive into the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.